hey boss, I have an amazing idea to make more money. I mean, I love making more money, so go for it. So you know that one very popular book series that we have that is now getting a new installment? Yeah, well, what about it? So what if we, in honor of the new installment, offer the series in a completely new cover design? I mean, sure, we could do that, but like, wouldn't people just purchase the new installment in the old cover design? Like, I don't see why they would buy the new cover designs. No, that's not what I mean. I mean that we would only be offering this new installment in the new cover design. What do you mean? True fans of a series want to have the entire series in the same cover design. It has to do with aesthetics and having a nice bookshelf. So, like, if we publish the new installment just in the new cover design, they're kind of being forced to buy all of the books again in the new cover design. That is evil, but would make us so much money. That's not always how it goes in the publishing industry. Hi and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to address some of the typical bookish pet peeves readers have when it comes to the publishing industry. And by that, I mean more of like the exterior of the book versus like the contents. Like, I know that the majority of people don't really like a bland main female character with long brown wavy hair that has brown eyes and is supposedly great at everything that she does. Like, that's not the bookish pet peeves I'm talking about. I'm more so talking about certain decisions publishers make to the exterior of books and how that can be very frustrating for certain readers. Like, for example, why do publishers change the book cover design of a book series halfway through the series? Or why is there an annoying as seen on Netflix sticker on the book that cannot be removed? Those kinds of decisions I kind of want to talk about because I work in publishing, and I think I have like a good insight as to why publishers might decide to do that, even though it, is very frustrating. I can admit that that is very annoying. Let's get through some typical bookish pet peeves that you might have as a reader. Firstly, why do publishers change a book design halfway through the series? Like, I understand how annoying that can be. I think one of the most frustrating examples as of recent is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This book is part of A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and this is, I want to say, like the 5th book in the series. And with that installment, the entire aesthetic of the series changed. Previously, you had these fantasy women on the cover, and now it's just mainly like text and some decoration. And you might be thinking, like, why do publishers do this? Because it's very frustrating, obviously, if you're like a collector and you collect the entire series, that the book suddenly changes the design and you have to kind of go back and purchase the other books if you want to have a nice, complete aesthetic on your bookshelves. There are a lot of reasons why this could be happening, but one of the most common ones, and I think also what happened with A Court of Thorns and Roses, is particularly with very long-running series, certain designs just need a refresh. And what I mean by that is Court of Thorns and Roses, let's take that as an example, came out, I want to say, in 2015. That is almost 10 years ago, and you can tell when you look at the original cover, it is a bit like outdated. It feels like an old 2010s cover. Especially too with long-running series, you kind of have to keep renewing yourself in order to draw in a new audience, because not everyone is going to want to read an entire series from beginning to end. So you need to keep making the series attractive to a new audience. Let's take A Court of Thorns and Roses as an example, because we're talking about it anyways. The first book in that series very much reads as a young adult book, both when it comes to the cover design, because it features this warrior lady, very vibrant, very fun, but also content-wise, reads as a very standard YA from the early 2010s. Fast forward to A Court of Silver Flames, you cannot call this a young adult book anymore. This is very much an adult, mature book. Like, in my opinion, irresponsible to call this YA because it's very explicit when it comes to smut and, mainly smut. Yeah, I would not be comfortable having my 15-year-old daughter read this. Not that I have a 15-year-old daughter, but I'm just, hypothetically. I think that is probably one of the biggest reasons why Bloomsbury decided to change the cover design of this series, is just because the demographic has changed. Although the first book very much reads as a young adult, the series evolved and changed and turned into what we now know is romantasy, which is something completely different to YA. Aside from that too, the original covers read very girly. There are women on the cover, and I know I should not be like stereotyping men and like pigeonhole them, but like typically men don't like books with a woman on the cover. Like, that's just sadly how reality is. Maybe by having the cover be more neutral like it is now, you could also draw in a male audience and widen your demographic. Another example of how publishers might change book designs in order to draw in a new audience is what we've been seeing with romance books recently. Like a lot of the typical like spicy, smutty romance books nowadays look like this. Like they look like cute, innocent books with cartoons on the cover. Like you'll never see real people on these covers. They're always like drawings of people, but they're cute and they look pretty harmless when you look at them. But back in the day when I was growing up in the early 2000s, these books had the most raunchy covers you can ever imagine. Like they had these bare-chested men full of sweat holding this innocent, vulnerable woman in his arms, hair being like, think Fabio. That was the type of cover that you had back in the day. Content-wise, though, these two kinds of books are exactly the same. That is why sometimes very popular romance authors that have had a very long career have these very tacky book covers at the start of their series, and as it progressed and as the trends have changed, it starts to become the typical cartoon covers that we know nowadays. Another reason why a publisher might change a book design of a series halfway through is because they're kind of giving the author a rebrand and making the entire catalog of that author have a particular aesthetic that is very typical to that author. So it's very recognizable for people buying books that they could immediately pinpoint that that book is by their favorite author. I think a very good example of this is V. Schwab. If you look at her most recent catalog, all of her books feature the same font, and a lot of the time too, she has very distinct colors in her covers. Like most of them have either dark blue, white, black, or red, which makes it very recognizable for fans to immediately pinpoint that that book is by V. Schwab, even if they have not seen the author's name on the cover. Lastly, there could be a potential issue between the illustrator that did the cover design and the publisher slash author. That could be something when it comes to like contract or creative differences, and they decided to part ways. That is not something I think that happens very often anymore, because a lot of big publishing houses have illustrators in-house. But if you work with a freelance illustrator, this is something that can happen. A lot of the times it is stipulated in the agreement between the illustrator and the publishing house that you're no longer able to publish the cover designs by that illustrator, or obviously add cover designs that look similar, because that it would be very murky when it comes to like plagiarism and stuff like that. So that is often also a reason why publishers change book designs halfway through a series. And you might be thinking, why does the publisher then not print both the new cover design alongside the old one, so you can pick whether you pick the new one or the old one? That is just a matter of cost efficiency. It is still cheaper to, let's say, print 10,000 copies of one cover design than print 5,000 copies of two different cover designs. Like it's still an additional cost. Aside from that too, you're kind of competing with your own product, because bookshops are not going to want to buy in both versions of the book. Like they're going to pick one or the other, which ultimately is going to make one edition more popular than the other one. And you know, that is a loss for a publishing house. They rather put all of their money into one successful product than have two less successful products, if you get what I mean. Another very valid bookish pet peeve is when books suddenly change sizes halfway through a series and you're like, why does my bookshelves do this? Why are the last 4 books in the series suddenly a different size than the first 2? Like, it makes no sense. Actually, it does kind of make sense from a publishing standpoint. The most common reason why this happens is because the publisher has decided to work with a printer who has not done the other books in the series, and that particular printer is not able to print the size that the other books are in. Printers have very standard sizes or standard formats, and certain printers are not able to handle certain sizes, or they do, but they're way more expensive to produce. And you might be thinking, why does the publisher then pick that particular printer? Well, maybe the new printer is able to deliver the books more quickly than the printer that they previously worked with, and especially with like a very popular book series, you kind of want the books now. So that could be a very valid reason why they switch printers. Maybe the printer that they previously worked with has gone out of business, or there is a legal issue between the printer and the publisher. And lastly, of course, there's a matter of money. Maybe the new printer is able to print them for a cheaper price. Those are all reasons why a publishing house might change printers, and why that might eventually also influence the format of a certain book. Aside from that, the size of your book also very much determines your shipping cost and your distribution cost, because as a publisher, you have to kind of make this calculation of like, okay, how many of these books fit into one particular shipping box, and how many of these shipping boxes fit onto the shipping boat, like the boat that goes from the printer to the warehouse, and how many of those boxes fit into the trucks that go from the warehouse to the bookshops. Like every single inch or centimeter very much matters when you're dealing with a print run of 10,000 copies. So it could very much be that they decide to enlarge the book slightly to reduce the amount of pages, therefore making it easier to fit into a shipping box and reduce your shipping costs. Depending on how many pages that particular book has, the publisher might decide to enlarge the trim size slightly to allow for less pages and therefore make it easier to fit into a shipping box and reduce the shipping costs. So like there are a lot of factors that come into play.
I forgot to mention this, but obviously a bigger book also means that you can ask more for it. The bigger something is, the more value we adhere to it, right? So by making the book bigger, you're basically making it more valuable for the audience and you're able to ask more for it in terms of a retail price. So it might actually be like more of a profit kind of strategy.
Another very annoying book pet peeve is when book publishers put these kinds of stickers on their covers. The as seen on Netflix stickers, or from this celebrities book club sticker, and more importantly, or more annoyingly actually, when you cannot remove these stickers, when they're actually printed on the cover, and you ask yourselves, why do publishers do this? Well, let me explain. I know that the majority of readers don't really like it when these kinds of stickers are on their books, but there's a very valid reason as to why this happens. Well, this is mainly a contract between the company that they're working with, so like Netflix or Disney, and the publishing house. So what happens is that the company that the publisher is working with, so in this case like a streaming service or the book club, will order a particular print run of that particular book, and the contract will state that the publisher is obliged to indicate somewhere on the cover that this is a collaboration. Oftentimes in these contracts, it is very specifically stated how much surface of the cover design the collaboration has to take up. So like if it's 30% or 25%. Now, why are these collaborations or stickers printed on the cover permanently? One of the reasons that I can come up with is that the printer that they're working with is not able to produce the stickers in the way that they want to. Like maybe they're not able to put them on there automatically, which makes it a manual process, which automatically makes it more expensive if someone has to like physically put the stickers onto the cover, and they might decide to just print it on the cover immediately. Or it could again be a matter of contract, where the contract stipulates that the publisher is not able to put a sticker on the cover, but has to like actually physically put a permanent indication of the collaboration on the cover. So that might be a reason why it is a permanent sticker and not a added on feature. So yeah, that might also be a reason why there is a permanent sticker on your favorite book. These collaborations with like book clubs and streaming services are direct and assured income for publishing houses, which allows them to kind of have a buffer to invest into more risky projects, and maybe they can take a chance on an author that they might not have been able to because they did not have the money to invest into that person. It is a driving force for the publishing industry, so I get that it's annoying from a reader's point of view, but for the publishing industry, it's a very important part of the business. Maybe be a bit more lenient towards these kinds of book covers, because they do help a lot of your other favorite authors to exist and to get the opportunities that they want. So yeah, I hope you learned something in this video. I would love to do more of these kinds of videos on like the publishing industry and like the behind the scenes. So if that is something you find interesting, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you in another video. Have a lovely day. Bye!